Welcome to Role Players, a podcast from stage to stream.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Role Players podcast. I am Jonathan Hoskins in Los Angeles, being joined across the coast by my dear friend Jonathan Long. What is up, my dude?
You know, just winters in South Carolina. It's a very different type of feel. It's still not that cold.
Oh, really? What is it? What's it like? Is it hot? Is it humid or what?
I mean, it's finally getting chilly. I think we hit like 50s today.
Oh.
But
a non-cold winter, I wouldn't know what that's like in Los Angeles. Just kidding. Motherfucker, it's great right now. It's like 70 every day. This is the perfect time of year. It's not the summer and the heat waves. Enough weather, small talk. We've got a lot of things to talk about today, a lot of sports. And unfortunately, we just had some breaking news in the NFL that we'll get to in a second. That is not really sports that we'll need to talk about. But first, we're going to start with a new segment today, our warm-ups.
Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow red.
Okay, Long, for warm-ups today, I got a few topics I'm going to throw out at you. First one, Nate Robinson.
got knocked the fuck out
All right.
in one of the most embarrassing displays of boxing I've ever seen in my life by both men.
Somebody needs to beat Jake Paul's ass. Because we all want to see that shit.
God, it was so bad. Jake Paul just kept hugging him, and then when they'd break up, he just hit him one time, and Nate would be like, "Ah, shit, that hurt."
Yes.
Which also makes me wonder about Nate Robinson's street cred, because
It took a hit after that. That was not the right
My man
format. If there was street
fell
fighting,
down.
I think he would have won.
my man fell down 3 times before the second round.
He really wasn't ready for him. He really was not ready. He didn't think he was that good.
He's not that good.
Didn't he hit him in the back of the head, too? He had a little bit of a rabbit punch.
It looked like he hit him in the back of the head, but he hit him right here behind the ear, which, like, that shit hurts. There's a nerve right there that you get hit right there, and it fucking shocks you.
That shit hurts.
I watched the replay, and, like, it was a clean shot. It wasn't to the back of the head. He thought it was to the back of the head, but nah, it was right here behind the ear.
Last night, Sunday Night Football. Obviously, the main takeaway from that game was the return of the Mac, Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, man.
Did you watch any of that game?
I watched the interception he threw right over the top in double coverage.
Ah, man. Back to normal. We missed you, Mitch.
What a return to form.
Here's a real question for you. I know we both watched the UNC Notre Dame game that was on Friday, because I think it was like the only really good thing on Friday. Mitchell Trubisky now, if he's in for that other quarterback that looks just like him on UNC, did they win that game?
No.
Mitchell Trubisky is so bad. Yeah, the Packers took care of business. We don't know if we can trust them, but we can't trust anyone in the NFC. Let's move on to the next warm-up topic. We got some firings. Yesterday, the Jaguars fired their GM, but did not fire their coach. So they're keeping Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone there for the time being. Who knows if Doug Marrone will stay with a new GM. And the Lions, after their Thanksgiving debacle, actually, it wasn't really a debacle compared to the week before with the Panthers. They have also fired Matt Patricia and their GM, Bob Quinn.
Here's the thing. Matt Patricia should have been out
A long, long time ago. A real long time ago.
But no, Matt Patricia should have either never gotten the job or been out a long time ago. I mean, you replaced a coach that had a winning record with a coach that can't string together multiple wins. I mean, it's pretty rough. It's a rough time to be a Lions fan. Those exist, right?
Yeah, but this is kind of what they expect, I think. They have this like pride in losing. It's kind of their identity, I think, a little bit. I think the Thanksgiving thing is disappointing. But, it's their time of year to shine. And I think I was one of the people in the beginning of the year like, maybe this is the year the Lions show out, because that division is hard to trust. And the Lions seem to have talent. They have speed. I know they're dealing with injuries, but yeah, Patricia's been crappy, man. Bring back Caldwell.
Yeah, their defense just progressively didn't get any better.
I just don't get it.
No matter what.
To me, they're the same as the Matthew Stafford Lions are the same as the Matt Ryan Falcons, except the Lions don't even have a playoff run or an MVP to go off of. And Calvin Johnson retired, and Julio is still playing, even though he doesn't play. Okay, so next in warm-ups.
Yeah.
Last thing I'm going to throw out here. Bleacher Report is reporting there is tension between Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. There's tension.
Wasn't there tension between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? Is this a surprise?
What the hell does this even mean? Tension. I hate reports like this, man. If you
it's
lose,
so vague.
If you lose, of course, man. Like, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, that's like when Cam lost the Super Bowl. There was tension between Cam Newton and that reporter that was talking to him.
No, yeah.
No shit, there's tension.
And there's tension between the Broncos players celebrating right behind him, too. That was tough. Man, that hurts. Yeah, I don't get the report of this. I just think the real story here is that Bruce Arians has a different offense than what Tom Brady's used to. Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator for Ben Roethlisberger and those Steelers for a while. And I guess this is part of our warm-up. This will segue into our conversation today. The breaking news that came out, the Steelers-Ravens game has been postponed to Wednesday. Who knows by the time that you're listening to this? We're recording this Monday. By the time you're listening to it, it may have been postponed to Sunday.
I'm thinking at this point, they're going to postpone it till, Lamar can play again. Which is, it's fine. I understand, you want it to be as competitive as possible. There's two teams competing for a playoff spot. But also, what happened with the Broncos?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because that was our first thing. I think this is what a lot of people are thinking about. The Broncos played the Saints yesterday.
Without a quarterback.
Game. Yeah, there was no quarterback because all these dumbass quarterbacks for the Broncos were together. I don't know. It's not their fault. Look,
Taysom Hill looked good, and he only passed for 74 yards.
Yeah, that was. I mean, look, I hate the Saints, so that was not cool that they got to go play what should be a tough road game in Denver, even if Denver's not the best team this year. It should be a hard game, especially with their backup quarterback, and they get that. But there's only a couple people that had coronavirus. It was like a return man and then the quarterbacks. Okay, so position-wise, it seemed like they were fucked because they didn't have quarterbacks. It's the most important position. But the Ravens had 20 positive tests. Okay, so it's a very different thing. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's 20 positive tests or 20 people in protocol. I always am not totally sure, so we'll just say protocol for that. But the number of players that could not play because of coronavirus protocols for the Ravens is past a point where it will be competitive. According to the NFL, they do not care about who it is. So
it's just it's hard to believe that.
I get, as a Steeler fan,
I completely understand. I understand both sides of it. There are a lot of players.
They don't want to push this game.
No,
they don't want to push this game. They would have loved to get this game done Sunday when no one was watching it.
They would have loved it on Thanksgiving as well.
Right.
When everyone was healthy.
Right. And if they had pulled the trigger and played earlier, the Steelers would have coronavirus. They would have an outbreak.
That's true, and I agree with that. It's hard to watch because it's just how far can we push it back? Because it's already being rumored that our game against the Washington football team is now going to be Monday.
I think it has to be moved back. You can't go from Wednesday to Sunday.
It absolutely.
You can't do that. That's not right.
Yeah. You get what, 1.5 days worth of practice with that, because you have to take a day of rest basically. You get a practice on Friday, and then Saturday you get a practice, and then you travel.
So no, there's no way that's going to happen. They have to push it to Monday or Tuesday.
There's no way. They've got to move it. And it's rough because we were on such a roll, and we've already, as a Steelers fan, we've already lost a bye week earlier in the year because of the Bills game. And then we get to the Ravens game, and it sucks that it keeps happening to any team whatsoever. But to have it at this level twice against good opponents that we need to beat, especially this week.
So here's my argument
rough.
for you. I think this is the best thing that could happen to the Steelers in this season, and here's why.
Because we're going to get to play RG3?
No. Well, first of all, look, I get the scheduling things. It stinks. But also, two teams that have been on your schedule that are probably playoff teams with the Titans and the Ravens have been not as strong when they've played you because they've actually had COVID. So that sucks for them. But and both of which have been, it's shown it's kind of been their own doing a little bit. But I think the Steelers, legacy-wise, could benefit from this because there's not going to be an asterisk on their season because they've had a couple more challenges. And if this game was to be canceled or postponed to a Week 18, which is in the protocol that the NFL will do if they have to cancel games, they could add a Week 18, which would be a huge disadvantage to the Steelers if they have the bye week because then it'll give every other playoff team a free bye week. So they want this game to be played now. I think out of those two options, wouldn't you rather have a disadvantage now and get your bye week?
You know, I agree with that. It seemed like they were being optimistic, and it was a bit unrealistically optimistic that we were even going to get to play it on Tuesday.
Well, I mean, yes.
I think my biggest quarrel is that it was announced kind of late today. We were expected to play tomorrow, and it was announced, not too long ago. We were going to get to play it on Tuesday. I still don't know if Wednesday is going to happen either. I'm afraid we're going to get midway through tomorrow, and they're going to say, nope, we're not playing Wednesday either.
Well, Schefter is reporting that there are no more positive tests, so that should be a great thing, or that should be safe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. My plan was for us to tag an additional conversation to put up Tuesday night and just wait till after that game to release this episode, but now we're not going to wait. The Monday night game is not important enough really to do that with the Seahawks and Eagles coming up. So let's just move on, man. Hopefully we can finish this season, but the COVID stuff is a real big thing. And just real quick with going back to that Broncos game, because I hope we don't discuss it anymore. Philip Lindsay got hurt in that game, and that will happen when you don't really have a quarterback and you have to run a lot from Wildcat. So stinks for him. Okay.
I just want to, before we move on, I want to tag in some facts about that Broncos game. One, the defense had more interception yards than the quarterback did passing yards. Two, the defense had more interceptions than the whole offense had receptions. Three, the Broncos tried to get a coach to play quarterback, and the NFL denied it. What a world we are living in.
What a damn world. And man, I would have loved to see Elway play. That would have been something. Okay, Long, so a big takeaway from yesterday's games was that the mob runs everything. The NFL is fixed. The casinos made a shit ton of money yesterday. It was too easy. Look. I took the bait. I knew what was happening, and I took the bait because I liked it anyway. Let me tell you the two games going into this week that I was like, I knew it was a setup from Vegas, and I'm not talking about the Raiders, although I am talking about the Raiders. The Raiders-Falcons game, one of the weirdest games ever to me. The Raiders gave the Chiefs a really great game, looked really good last week. They're a playoff team. They really need every game in this thick AFC game. They go on the road. They're a West Coast team. They have to go all the way to Atlanta, right? And play a 1:00 game. That's 10 o'clock West Coast. So, oh gosh, but I didn't care. They were favored by 3.5, and I thought they're gonna smoke the Falcons. Okay, the Raiders are gonna be able to score. Okay, the Falcons are true. I got to take that bet. The Falcons won 43-6 without Julio Jones or Todd Gurley. Yep. Derek Carr looked awful. And then the other game that got me was the Cardinals-Patriots. In this game, what do you think the spread was on this game?
I'm assuming the Cardinals were favored by at least a touchdown.
No, they were favored by 2.5.
That's it?
Under a field goal. And I waited the whole week.
I would have taken that bait. I would have taken the bait.
Right.
I'm happy I'm not a betting man.
The whole week, I was waiting and looking at that shit. I was like, y'all are daring me to take it. And I kept hearing this stuff about Kyler Murray's shoulder. And maybe his shoulder wasn't right. They were hiding stuff. And I waited all the way till the injury report came out in the AM hours on Sunday morning. And I was like, look, they're good. I'm pulling the trigger. They lost by 3. But if you go through the games here, we had a lot of underdogs that at least covered the spread. The Jaguars only lost by 2 against the Browns. The 49ers upset the Rams. The Buccaneers actually had a backdoor cover there and covered the 3 points. They were 3.5 dogs there. The Panthers covered and lost. We're not going to talk about this game this week. The Titans, this is the game I got right this week, and this is the most important game to me. So let's really start here with our conversation. Titans-Colts. 2 weeks after the Colts, really smacked the Titans on Thursday Night Football after some special teams errors. We've got the Titans going to the Colts and winning 45-26. Really just took over that game. Looked like Derrick Henry last season. What were your takeaways from this game looking forward as the AFC South is really narrowing down?
I would say the Titans are a talented football team. However, the Titans have some consistency issues at times. Also, I don't think Tannehill can win you a game when it's close, and I don't think Tannehill can throw you out of a big deficit. If you're going to have to rely on Tannehill, I don't trust it. I do trust Derrick Henry being able to run over people. But I can't put my faith behind the Titans. I do think they're talented. I do think that they should make it to the playoffs and maybe have a little success, but I don't see them going very deep.
Okay. So you said they're not consistent. Okay. In the AFC, you're right because the Steelers and the Chiefs. But other than those two teams, I think the Titans are the most poised for a run.
I think that's part of my... Well, yeah, I mean, you have the Ravens who are not consistent at all. The Browns are the Browns. Who knows?
Bills.
I mean, yeah. But here's my thing with the Titans. I think that I'm a little jaded because the AFC has the 2 most consistent teams this year so far. So it's hard to match them up against them. And if you match them up against the Ravens, I think they could beat them. You match them up against the Bills, I think they can beat them. You match them up against the Browns, I think they can beat them. But when you get to what's going to be the marquee of a good team in the AFC this year, it's going to be how do they fare against the Chiefs? How do they fare against the Steelers? And I don't trust them.
I don't trust them, but I could see them beating the Steelers. I couldn't really see them beating the Chiefs. I think I would definitely favor the Steelers in that game for sure. But we saw a lot like last season with their running game. They can keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands for a little bit, and then too bad. And their defense is worse this year. But I do like them more than the Colts. So if we look at this division, they're now 1 game up on the Colts. They split the regular season. Let's look at the schedule coming up, though. Okay, with 5 games left. Next week, very big game. You just said the Browns-Titans as a game, and you'll get to see that. Browns are at Titans. Okay, and then they have the Jaguars on the road, the Lions at home, then they go to Green Bay, and then they go to the Texans. So out of those 5 games, the Browns and the Packers look like the only real
Yeah, it seems like they should win at a minimum 3 of those. I'm saying they should win 4.
Right. I kind of expect them to win 4 there, but at least 3 it seems. Okay, then the Colts have at the Texans, then they play at the Raiders, and then the Texans again, and then at the Steelers, and then they play the Jaguars. So it's kind of the same as they have 2 like playoff contending teams. Obviously, the Steelers should be a pretty tough game, and then the rest of them are division games that versus the Texans and Jaguars. It should be pretty easy.
My thing is that Raiders game is really going to matter because if the Raiders come in and play like they did against the Chiefs, it's going to be tough. If the Raiders come in and play like they did against the Falcons, well, that's a different story.
Right, and the Raiders are at home in that game, but Phillip Rivers against a divisional opponent, a former divisional opponent for him, may not be the worst thing. But They played the Texans twice, and they could drop one of those games pretty easily, as we saw Deshaun Watson the past 2 weeks has just been incredible, reminding everyone how good he is. But I like the Titans in that division. I tried to get money on them. I wanted to parlay them winning the division with the game against the Colts, and I could not get that at the booking site I use. Real shame, because it's looking pretty good right now. Okay, let's move on. Long out of the games, I know the Broncos game caught your eye because it was a train wreck. But what other games caught your eye yesterday?
You're not gonna like this, but the Panthers.
Okay, the Panthers-Vikings game. Why don't you just describe in your eyes what happened, because it's a little too...
I watched what I thought was some of the weirdest coaching decisions in the last 5 minutes of a game for a team that was leading that I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, it was so weird.
I mean, you're up and you're passing the ball, which I understand, like, you want to get the first down, but, like, you got to complete a pass. So, like, if you're throwing a route to the running back who's just kind of leaking out there and he misses it, like, that stops the clock. And so they stop the clock, and then they get the ball back because of a muffed punt, and you're still throwing it. And to no avail because you didn't even
first
get a
and
touchdown.
goal with about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, something like that,
Right.
left, and up 3.
You didn't even get a touchdown.
Well, on the 3rd and goal there, huge play. 3rd and goal, the Vikings have used a timeout in the 2-minute warning, so there's about 1 minute and 50 seconds left from about the 4. And they decide to be aggressive and pass the ball. And I don't hate that in general, all right? Like, I've seen plenty of times, and if they ran the ball there, it actually would have not helped them, as we'll explain in a second. Because what happened on that 3rd and goal is Teddy Bridgewater, I think the Vikings did a 0 blitz, and there was a coverage fuck up, and DJ Moore is wide open in the back of the end zone on what looks like a slant, and Bridgewater just throws behind him by like 3 yards, and DJ Moore, when he snaps back to try to grab the ball, gets hurt. It's one of our best receivers. The clock stops. It's incomplete, and we have to kick a field goal. Teddy Bridgewater just hits him in the end zone. The game is over, and they win.
Yeah, of course.
There's no injury. And you saw, if you watched the Buccaneers-Chiefs game, you saw the Chiefs run the ball out by calling pass plays because Mahomes is fucking Mahomes. He's going to complete it or run. He knew what the fuck he was doing.
Right,
Teddy
and I think that's the
Teddy
big thing
Bridgewater.
is Teddy Bridgewater is, and I've said this before and I'll continue to say this, he is a backup quality quarterback that can win some games. He is not a star. I'm sorry. They're overpaying him for his services and expecting too much of him. It's a pass that he should have made. I mean, yeah, the defense is in his face and like there's 0 blitzing, and I get that. But you got to put it in the area where he can catch it. And if not, at that point, it's probably better to take the sack.
Yeah, it is. It is better to take the sack.
If you can't get it there, it's better to just fall down.
Yeah. And we would not be having the same conversation because the end of that game, the Panthers did get the ball back with about 50 seconds left. And if they ran the ball on that play, they would have not got the ball back with 50 seconds left. They'd have got it with 10 seconds left. Okay, so it's not the worst call in the world, right? Like, I do understand what Matt Rule was thinking.
And I get that.
And then we end up with a 54-yard field goal indoors, and it was a complete shame.
Like, why left or right? I can't remember. It was pretty bad.
It was just off. If I know, like, you're like, okay, you missed a 54-yarder. Like, yeah, it's 54 yards. You can't count the win on that. But this was like a total fuck up. Like, you could see he choked from how bad
it had the distance. So it's not like it was weird because it looked like it came off his foot wrong. But if it came off his foot wrong, then I would have expected it to not go as far as it did.
Are the Panthers tanking secretly?
For what?
Slightly better picks?
But, like, who are they looking for? What are they trying to get?
Just like a better selection in general.
I think the Panthers are a decently built team. I think their defense shows that they're really good. Jeremy Chin is really good. I think he's the best defensive draft pick other than Chase Young this year. And oh yeah.
he's our second round pick. So we still have someone we selected 7 named Derek Brown, who's a decent defensive tackle. Yeah, they're good, but I don't know what to make out of that game. Here's my real thing, and I'm gonna go back to the Cowboys. I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to your fan bases. I'm talking to the Chargers fan bases right now. When you're a team that really you want to give up on your team for the season, you just want to say, all right, we'll get them next year. But then they drag you in these close fucking games. And I ended up pissed all day yesterday because of that Vikings-Panthers game. But
it's like you're always just right there.
Just right there. You know, at the beginning of the game, I had other games on that I cared more about because I had money invested in them. And then as the Panthers-Viking game goes on, I'm like, yeah, Panthers, yeah. And then
Heartbreak.
Sequence of events happen, and I'm heartbroken. And so I just want to shout out, like the Cowboys who were total trash this year and you want to give up on your team. You end up in that game against Washington on Thursday, which I've segued into talking about now. And you actually have a real good chance to win that game. I know the final score says 41-13 or 16.
Like, yeah, that was the final score, but it was a closer game than that.
Yeah, Alex Smith threw a really bad almost pick 6, right? It was 10-17 or 13-17, I think. And the Cowboys got an interception and ran it all the way like inside the 5. Then Washington had a goal line stand and totally flipped the game over and just blew them out the rest of the game. Outscored them 21-0 in the fourth quarter.
I do have to ask, what has happened to Ezekiel Elliott? I've never been a huge fan, but what has happened to him? Because his ball security has disappeared. Like, I always thought he was a decent running back, but like, this is not his year.
Yeah, definitely. He's had a bigger problem with that this year. I know I noticed that at the beginning of the season, and I wanted to pick at him, and it seemed like he was having a couple better games. And their offensive line is pretty banged up now, so it is what it is. But if you can't protect the ball, man, I think part of it is defenders know now that they can do it, and they're not as scared of like, oh shit, I'm gonna miss a tackle with him because he's just not as dominant. His offensive line just isn't as good. And if your offensive line is pushing the big guys away and you're getting hit by the smaller guys, less likely to fumble than when you're getting hit by the bigger guys. That's my analysis.
That's fair, and it does make sense to, like, if you lose. I mean, we've seen it with the Steelers. As a Steeler fan, I mean, I've seen the Steelers have one of the best offensive lines, and I've seen them have pretty terrible offensive lines. And we are more successful on the ground, and there is less fumbles when the offensive line is effective and does its job.
Yeah.
So I get it, but it's been a rough year for him.
And the other obvious answer here is coaching. Mike McCarthy, you welcome to the hot seat. You're already on it. Your team looks like shit. The fake punt was one of the funniest things we've ever seen. Thanks for that. We all burned a few extra calories on Thanksgiving for that. So, quick fact here, Jonathan. The Broncos completed 1 pass in their game yesterday against the Saints. The last time a team finished a game with 1 completed pass was in 2006. The 49ers did it. Guess who their offensive coordinator was?
Because we were talking about, is it Mike McCarthy?
It is Mike McCarthy. Look, man, I just think is culture a real thing? That's my takeaway from this game long is Mike McCarthy came to the Cowboys. They're trash. They're trash. They've been horrible. I know Dak Prescott's good and he's out, man, but this is embarrassing. This division is embarrassing. They should be able to compete. Washington's on their 3rd quarterback, okay? And they had way less talent. And Ron Rivera is in there, and they're a winning team.
Yeah,
And now look at the Packers.
You say a winning team. Their record still isn't winning, but they're winning the division.
Yeah, you're right. They they play solid. I don't know what to say. They're well coached. They appear to be clean and well coached. But my point look at the Packers now without Mike McCarthy. I think their culture it's not just from the coach, man. We want to put all this shit on the coaches. But it happens at an organizational level, right? It's the owners, it's the GMs, it's everybody in the building, it's the fans, it's the quarterback, right? The Packers have gotten better since McCarthy left, right? Their culture stayed the same, it was even better. the Cowboys have had shitty culture because of Jerry Jones forever. That's what happens with them.
Nothing makes me happier, though, than to watch Jerry Jones' face when the Cowboys are just blowing it up. I love when the camera guys cut to Jerry Jones in the booth and he just looks miserable. Because all that money can't buy you wins.
But it can buy you a different expression on your face, Jerry. I think you should try to get a different expression next time that you get a little work done. So the Bills and the Chargers in Buffalo. Didn't really watch much of this game live. Watched a little of the tape after. I mean, I think Justin Herbert is overrated. Herbert? Sherbert? I'm just kidding. He's overrated, man. I think he's good, but like people think he's the next coming of who?
Phillip Rivers?
No, they think he's better than Rivers. They think he's like Favre. People are really hyping him up. Like I heard Tony Romo talking about him this past week on a podcast. Like everyone is saying immediately he's got the goods. But I think the Chargers team is too good to be losing games all the time. Maybe not this game. They should have lost to the Bills for sure. How did Josh Allen do this week?
Josh Allen was okay. Didn't get a lot of yardage. He was 18 for 24, so semi-accurate. He threw for 1 touchdown and 1 pick, but didn't get a lot of yards. He only got 154 yards, but did score a rushing touchdown.
Constant.
I mean, he's consistent. I mean, yeah, he might not have the greatest passing game, but he'll get it done. I do like Josh Allen as a quarterback. I think that he's got a lot of scrappiness in him. He likes to fight for wins. He does what he can. He's way more mobile than he was when he came into the league.
Who do you like better, him or Tannehill?
Josh Allen.
Who do you trust him more in a playoff game?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Because
well,
sometimes
we're talking about Tannehill and the Titans going, but Josh Allen, I think we have him still in this category of like young and promising upcomer.
But here's my thing with Josh Allen. Here's my thing with Josh Allen is he can win you games, or he could be the reason you lose a game. Because that man will sometimes go out and roll out of the pocket and just throw it.
Just watch some of that playoff game last year versus the Texans. Go back and watch some of those
reckless.
throws. That was amazing. But if you look at the passing numbers, Herbert threw the ball 52 times. I mean, they were down 17-6 early. 52 times. His quarterback rating was 46.5. Allen threw the ball 24 times, so less than half. Quarterback rating of 33. Both pretty bad here.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game for either. But Herbert did get 316 yards.
He did. But if you're losing the whole game, I mean, how many did Brady get? Let's move on to Giants Bengals, only to say, are the Giants going to win this division? Daniel Jones left the game with a hamstring injury, so now they've got Colt McCoy, who's still in the fucking league. Colt McCoy at quarterback. This game ended up Colt McCoy versus Brandon Allen. That's right, Brandon Allen. Another Allen. But the Giants are now 4-7, and they're right there with the Washington team and the Eagles, who if can win tonight will take the lead for the division.
They won't win tonight.
The Eagles won't win tonight?
No.
But Jalen Hurts might be playing.
I mean, unless Jalen Hurts comes in and shows me a whole nother offense, then like I just don't see it happening.
Any ideas, any guesses as who's going to win this shit?
I don't know. I'm torn. I want to say the Washington football team, which is crazy because at the beginning of the season I did not say that. I said they had too much going on. I didn't see it happening. But it's hard to say. Man, this division is just such a train wreck.
Look, I don't want this to happen. But Dallas could still win it.
No, I know.
Which is so crazy.
The entire division is still in it.
So, this is Washington's upcoming schedule. At Pittsburgh, we have no idea what's going on with that. Oh, it's currently scheduled. Have you seen this? When it's scheduled right now?
No.
It's scheduled for 2 p.m., so 5 Eastern on Monday. As of now. Okay. At Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Then they go at San Francisco, which is not in San Francisco. They're not allowed to play their home games in San Francisco or Santa Clara County.
They're playing Arizona.
Then they're playing Arizona? Is that what
Yes,
they decided?
the next 2 home games are in
I know
Arizona.
they talked about San Diego too, so Arizona. Huh? So that's what they'll be going for that. Then they play Seattle, Carolina, so Ron Rivera versus his former team. Then at Philly.
That's a tough schedule.
Yeah, because I can't tell you which one I would give them as a win. They could beat Pittsburgh if the rest is off. Maybe, probably not.
They could beat Carolina.
They could beat Carolina, especially the second to last week.
They could beat Philadelphia.
Right. San Francisco should be a good game. Hard to say, but San Francisco's still actually in the playoff hunt now again. And if any of these games get postponed with COVID, it is very possible, I don't know if everyone knows this, that they're adding another playoff team. If there are canceled games, they're just in the contract to add an eighth playoff team, which is another reason why I was mad as a Panther fan yesterday that we lost that game. But anyway, okay. Dallas is the easiest schedule coming up out of these 4 teams, in my opinion at least. So they end at Ravens, which is tough, but then they go at Bengals, then 49ers, Eagles, at Giants.
If the Bengals still had Joe Burrow, I think it matters.
It does. It matters. That really matters. With Ryan Finley, that you can kind of pencil in a victory. Okay, so before we finish on our NFL, let's kind of give our overview for who are the main contenders still in each conference, who we can see winning. We talked a little bit about the long shot AFC contenders, but let's start with the NFC. Last week, I named the episode when I posted it NFC toss-up as one of our conversation points. Well, that's just going to have to be it for the rest of the season because this shit, it really is a fucking toss-up. I don't trust anybody. I think it seems like the clear number one, if there is one, is a team without a quarterback, really. You watched more of that Saints-Broncos game. You had a tougher stomach. What were your takeaways from the Taysom Hill offense?
Taysom Hill did not look good. He looked kind of rough. I thought at maybe one point during this Taysom Hill experience, luckily it was against a team that didn't have a quarterback at all, but I thought they would have gave Jameis Winston a try because of how bad Taysom Hill looked. I mean, he had 74 yards passing.
I don't get it.
I do think Taysom Hill is a prolific, interesting concept of a player. He can do so many things. He's a Swiss Army knife, if you will. But I don't know, man. If you can't get the offense going, you're just lucky that they didn't have a quarterback, I think.
Yeah, it's rough to watch. It's interesting. I agree, man. I don't get why they didn't just play Jameis and then add more Taysom Hill and more and more and more. It doesn't really make sense to me. I think Sean Payton likes the challenge. I think he's kind of a little blinded by a personal relationship, honestly, or maybe it's just an excitement of different kinds of plays. But it seems like they're pretty limited to me when I watch them play. Maybe he also just has looked at the games that he thinks Breeze is out and going, okay, well, we're playing against teams that don't have, crazy good offenses. So our defense is going to be able to keep it low scoring. We'll take care of the ball and run the ball and play this kind of offense. Maybe that's what they're doing.
And maybe that's it because Jameis Winston is not the most careful player with the ball, and I get that. And I guess that maybe doesn't fit into Sean Payton's coaching style, but if that's the thing, then why did you pick him up?
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
There are other players you could have gotten that.
If Taysom Hill gets hurt now, then you lose a weapon of your offense that you used with Breeze.
Yeah.
But here's a pro. Maybe he's thinking this way. You think he's doing this where it's I'm going to put a lot of things on tape with Taysom Hill So these are all things that you now have to prepare for that we could run at any point. Because before, when Taysom Hill came out, they had like probably a limited, number of plays that they ran with him. Now they've opened that up. And so when you get into playoff games, I think defenses are going to have to take the time to at least study all those things.
Maybe, but again, it still doesn't make sense to me as to why you signed Jameis in the offseason. It just seems like it seems like a waste of money on him.
The Saints are really far over the cap. They've spent a lot of money. They're not going to be in a good position next year, and especially if Breeze is out. I agree with you, man. I think we still could see Jameis because I'm not sure they're being honest about Drew Brees' injury, and I think maybe if he does come back, he may be out again soon. And I don't know if they would do this in a playoff game. I think they would start Jameis and play and like really split it up if they had to do this in a playoff game. Has Jameis made the playoffs before?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think maybe he made a wild card game. Let's find out. He didn't even make a college football playoffs, right? Because they didn't have that.
He
right?
did. He made it his.
There was a play.
Yeah.
The first.
He
one,
lost to Oregon significantly. It's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, Mariota
fucked him up.
You remember when Mariota signed to the Raiders this offseason?
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, Carr got benched. You know who came in?
Not Mariota.
Nathan Peterman.
The
Peterman.
The man that threw so many picks.
Winston never took the Bucs to the postseason, but had one season with a winning record. And in this Google search, the people also ask the top thing says what happened to Jameis Winston.
Fair enough.
Other questions include, is Jameis Winston any good? Who is Jameis Winston playing for? And how many turnovers did Jameis Winston have in 2019? Oh, Jameis. Okay, the NFC, we're talking about the Saints. I can't trust them at all. They're the most consistent team, but they don't really have a quarterback. We don't know what that's going to be like. I'm not picking Taysom Hill in a home game, even if they're at home. Okay? In a playoff game. I'm not picking them. So that leaves us with who the fuck else? It kind of seemed like the Rams were about to be a contender again. They lose to the 49ers yesterday. Andrew Whitworth is out for the season, who's a really good offensive lineman for them. Can the Rams make a run or no?
Stranger things have happened.
Okay, let's do it this way. Rams or Seahawks?
I'm picking Seattle.
Rams or Cardinals? And this is playoffs, not necessarily head-to-head, but like in
I don't know
situations. Okay. Rams and any NFC East team.
Is that a question?
Okay. Yeah. Rams and Bucks.
I think I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
Okay. And the Rams did just beat them. Okay, Rams Saints.
I'm gonna go with Saints. With or without Drew Brees.
Either one. I like the Saints matchup for the Rams. I think they play the Saints and the Bucks well because Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, because those guys. But Goff is Goff.
Well, I think they play. So. I think they play them exceptionally well if Drew Brees is not in the game.
Okay, same game. Cardinals. They lose to the Patriots yesterday. I lost money on it. Well, how do you feel with them right now? They've lost to the Seattle and New England. And in our last podcast episode, we were talking pretty great about the Cardinals. However, we said we didn't trust it. We did say we didn't trust it. And since then, they have not won. Kyler has not looked very good. Teams have stopped him running the ball. I don't know if that's an injury or just offense or just the defenses he's gone against.
My thing is, I keep hearing Kyler Murray MVP candidate, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think he's an MVP candidate.
This is what we do. We say candidate when someone's clearly not a candidate. Like, look, we love Chris Paul, but last year he was not an MVP candidate because he was like 5th Okay, this is not a real candidate. He's not a candidate. Okay. So here's the thing with the NFC. Anyone could win it. There are 8 teams right now that I could see winning. So who the fuck knows? AFC, we know that's easy. Steelers and Chiefs. Who's the most scary team for those teams to go against? / who is, if there's another AFC team that makes the Super Bowl, that's not one of those 2 teams.
If I had to pick,
is it?
I'm going to answer your first question. I think the scariest teams in the NFC would be the Packers and either the Seahawks or the Saints. The Seahawks defense just doesn't look good, but their offense is good. So like that's the only reason I'm even keeping them in there. I think the Saints at full health are interesting. I don't trust them.
Yeah, how can you with the quarterback situation, and also they've lost games they were favorites in the playoffs a lot of years in a row with this team. And the AFC?
The other AFC team, I mean, I guess the Titans.
Yeah. Exactly. That was kind of my point earlier, because it says more about the other teams, really. Because I don't think it's going to happen with the Titans. But out of all the other teams, if you're talking about winning 3 games in a row and making it to a Super Bowl, I mean, the Titans have experience. Their O-line is awesome. I don't trust Tannehill, but I don't trust any of those other quarterbacks either.
Yeah.
I certainly don't trust the Ravens. I don't trust Colts.
I don't 100% know mathematically if the Ravens lose against the Steelers this week, if they're completely out, but it gets real rough.
No, they're not out.
It gets real rough.
Well, their schedule is really easy. I'm kind of planning for as soon as they lose the Steelers game to bet on them, but with the COVID thing, I'm not sure. But their schedule gets super easy. So if they can just win out, they'll still be okay. But it looks like the Patriots could be getting in there. But the Raiders have also dropped down. So that Raiders loss for the Ravens is pretty big.
It starts to hurt them because they're going to be sitting at 6-5, 1 game over 500 when they were really up there a couple weeks ago.
But what are the Raiders right now?
They're 5-6. Or no, the Patriots are 5-6, and the Raiders are 6-5 as well.
Right.
But it's just rough because now the Browns are sitting at 8-3.
The Browns are clearly going to be, I think they're going to be the first. Them and the Colts are going to be the first 2 easy ones. And then it's going to be between can the Dolphins do it, the Patriots, and the Raiders are in the prime spot, and then the Raiders.
Because you have the Dolphins sitting at 7-4 right now. But I don't know.
Man, the Ravens really are in a shit position.
Yeah, if they lose this week, it's going to start to hurt. Same thing with the Raiders. It's getting crunch time for them. They can't string together a couple more losses. It's going to be a time.
So really, what the Ravens should want to happen is for them to cancel this game and add an eighth spot.
Right.
If they add an 8th spot, man, I have no idea. They really just want to get this shit over with. Anyway, okay, so a new segment. Let's go to finish this episode out, our awards. We're going to nominate awards every episode now. I have a few to nominate. And one we're going to include all the time now is going to be the role player of the week. We do it every 2 weeks long. Should it be of the week, of the episode? Role player. Outstanding performance by a role player. How about that?
Sure. This is a segment that is relatively new to me, so I didn't get anything together for this one. The holidays were here.
No, you can get a role player though, right? You've got a role player, right?
I mean, I got somebody.
You can come up with somebody. I'm sure. Because my role player, or outstanding performance by a role player, goes to the ultimate role player in football, which is a kicker. And no, it's not to Joey Sly for his winning performance on behalf of the Vikings, even though he plays for the Panthers. This is the kicker for Vanderbilt football. Right? Yes, so in the SEC, Sarah Fuller makes history. Right? A female kicker played in the game. She She came on for a squib. The Vanderbilt offense wasn't good enough to get her a field goal attempt, but she came on for a pretty cool, like, strategic squib kick that they almost recovered. But I'm looking forward to seeing her making some kicks.
She got caught up late too. I mean, she was the keeper for the Vanderbilt soccer team, and really got caught up pretty late to play in that game.
Right, because she was just coming off that season.
Yeah.
So, Long, do you have a role player? Okay.
Yeah. My role player for the week would have to go to the one, the only Kendall Hinton. Nobody?
Huh?
Kendall Hinton. He played quarterback for the Broncos this week.
Demon Deacon, right? He's a Demon Deacon.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, he was working a sales job, and then got called to the practice squad, and then got called up to play quarterback out of nowhere. So, Kendall Hinton from North Carolina played for Wake Forest.
Yeah, man, that's courageous. I hope people don't clown him for that, man, because that's got to be really tough.
No, I mean, I can't clown him for the performance he put in. I mean, he had 2 practices, maybe one. He had very little time to play with that offense.
I think the test really officially came back. Like I'm sure he probably got some more snaps in practice when things started happening during the week, but the test didn't come back till like Saturday night. So he really had that morning. I imagined them in I guess they were at home, but in my head I imagined them in like hotel rooms running slant plays and shit like the night before, you know.
They were just up 3:00 in the morning in the facility, like, okay, when we say this, it's a slant, and Kendall's like, "You're not gonna make me pass the ball." Oh man, but no, I feel for him. That was a rough situation to get thrown into, and no, it wasn't the showing that I'm sure he wanted his big NFL quarterback debut to be, but he's still more likable than Roger Goodell.
Yeah. He is. Okay, so I have a couple more awards that I'd like to nominate. This is the award for most outstanding performance with a dialect, and the nomination goes to Stephen A. Smith.
And Mike McCarthy not recognized the fact that it might have been one of the worst calls we've seen in quite some time. This man actually sat up there with a straight face and said, you know something? It was a good call. You understand? It was right there to be executed correctly, okay? The bottom line is this man doesn't seem to know what he's doing too often. Now, obviously, we have to look at other players. We got to look at the Ezekiel Elliott's of the world, rushing for only 32 yards.
Okay, and what I love about that sound is when it starts to switch, it takes a very quick switch from cowboy to analysis when he talks about Ezekiel Elliott fumbling and Stephen A. Smith is back from New York again. What did you think about that dialect work, Long?
Correctly.
It's quite interesting, Mr. Stephen A. Smith.
What was he going for there?
Correctly.
You tell me.
I think he was a cowboy.
Yeah, no, he. I'm sorry. I could listen to Stephen A. talk about sports most of the time because he's so ridiculous.
Well,
this is just.
I'm glad you said that because I have another thing. There's no award for this one. Apparently, so a background so that you understand the context of this next clip I'm about to play from Stephen A. Mike McCarthy apparently brought in watermelons. Long, do you know who Gallagher is? The comedian?
Yeah,
he just smashed watermelons and other things. That was his whole thing. He just smashed stuff. And so Mike McCarthy brought in watermelons for his defense to smash. Well, let's hear Stephen A. talk about it.
And listen, I'm not going to even go here because I'm going to be nice about it. But as a black dude, with you reportedly bringing in watermelons to crush them just a week ago to give an indication of how a defense should play, and that's your methodology in order to encourage brothers to show up and play with a bit more fervor and energy for you, that's a huge question mark. But I won't go there today. I'm going to be nice.
Okay, Long. What? What grabs your attention?
My initial reaction to that is I'm not going to talk about that. But then he goes and he talks about it.
Yeah, I'll be nice.
It's the most Stephen A. Smith way to say I'm gonna be nice, but also I'm still gonna do the thing I said I'm not gonna do.
Right.
Again, I kind of love it. It's what makes him interesting.
It is, yeah, man. That's why he's the best. He's the GOAT.
You never know what you're gonna get from Stephen A.
Okay. And with Stephen A., there's someone else that people often think about. Skip. So this is my nomination for another award, Outstanding Performance in a Comedy with Skip Bayless featuring, as the straight man in this comedic bit, Shannon Sharp.
I've told you again and again, when I'm rooting against your Lakers, the two players who always scared me the most, Rondo and Dwight, because they play with such gray area edge. They give your team that dog. So they got that dog.
So let me get this right. I'm going to make sure people at home hear me. When you play the Lakers, the people that scared Skip Bayless the most was Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard. Not AD and LeBron, Rondo and Dwight Howard.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. So when I played you that clip, your head went down into your hand. As soon as Skip said he feared Dwight and Rondo.
There is a famous radio show that already has a segment that's very similar to this. And it's The Breakfast Club. And if I were to pick someone who is my donkey of the day...
Right.
it would be Skip Bayless. If I was to pick someone who was actually shacked and a fool, it would be Skip Bayless.
Sometimes with that guy, man.
He just never wants to give LeBron any credit.
Nothing. That's one of the most frustrating things about him. But
it's
just like Stephen A. in a totally different way, because Stephen A. has some respect. Skip Bayless is just as entertaining, in my opinion, because it's absurd. I hate it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of entertainment.
So next episode, we're going to talk about NBA. We're going to do a whole breakdown, a whole preview of who we liked, what we liked about free agency, and how the season is going to work, who we like in each conference, over-unders for wins. But going off of what Skip just said there, he was talking about the Lakers and Clippers, and the free agency battle was real with them. Montrezl Harrell going to the Lakers. Something I thought got overlooked. Something I thought was criminal almost, but to me says that the Lakers have clearly won this offseason. I'm going to ask you, Long, trivia. Off the top here. No Googling and nothing. Marcus Morris plays for what team? What about Markieff Morris?
They're not the same person. Is Marcus on the Clippers?
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah,
I don't know where Markieff is.
Well, you just gotta think of LeBron. I've heard LeBron say Keefe before, and I'll always remember that. So I know he plays for the Lakers. So let me tell you, what's the difference between those two players when you watch a game? Who's the better one? Long has no idea where to go here. Who's better?
I hear Marcus's name more.
Okay, so look, Marcus, by most stats, is better. Most people would say he's a better player. I cannot tell that. I just think he shoots more. That's my assessment of it. He just signed to a 4-year, $64 million contract extension with the Clippers. Markieff Morris just signed for a 1-year minimum to the Lakers. So I'm going to ask you again. One makes $64 million over 4 years, and others making the minimum. Who's better?
Okay, well, in this process, I did do some research.
Okay.
Prior to, I'm trying to find the most up-to-date stats.
Right, because you're getting some with the Knicks, right? Of when no one else was on that team, and he shot a whole bunch, and then they traded him.
So let's see. Marcus Morris, as of
Pretty good on the Celtics
2020,
teams.
as of 2020, was averaging 12.1 points per game. How many more points does Marcus need to have than Markieff to be worth that much more money per game? Is it less than one?
Is that
Because Markieff is 11.4.
Wow. And considering the role that they play, like, do you have the minutes there too? Because I would guess Marcus has more minutes.
I'm
So
looking for
I think
that.
he was playing by like 30 minutes a game in those ending runs for the Clippers.
Markieff is averaging about a half a rebound more. He's averaging about a quarter of a steal more. He's averaging about a quarter of an assist more. And he's averaging about a quarter of a block more per game.
So Markieff, to me, way better value, clearly. And when you pay a guy $64 million, you give him more of a license to do things, to be an integral part of your offense is expected to go to him. Markieff Morris is making the minimum, and he's just trying to get some minutes. Make a three when he can, make a block shot. He's going to be way better in that role, I think.
And a couple more small things. Markieff, his field goal percentage through his career is higher. His 3-point percentage is lower. But his free throw percentage is higher. So, yeah, I don't know that Marcus is worth that much more.
And let me tell you how much Markieff Morris is winning. It has been reported that these two share a joint bank account. They're that close. This dude is winning.
Hey, only one of them has a ring.
Damn, you beat me to the punchline, Long. I wanted you to say that Marcus was better, and I was going to say you were wrong, because only one of them has a ring, and that's Markieff.
That's what matters. Just ask anyone that thinks that Michael Jordan's the best player ever.
Right. It's Bill Russell.
Yep, that's it.
Damn it. Who is better, Robert Horry or Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan. But not by rings, right?
Wait, how many does Horry have? He's got 2 with the Rockets, 3 with the Lakers, and then a few with the Spurs. So, yeah. He's got 8, right? 7?
He's a 7-time NBA champion.
Yeah, so he's better than Duncan and Kobe.
He played 16 seasons and is a 7-time NBA champion.
Damn. He's better than Mike.
Damn.
So, bigger idea here, bigger thing. Are we going to be able to, like, have a basketball season? I don't think we're going to have a college
It's
basketball
already started,
season.
but
We've started that. It's officially underway. It's not looking good. Mike Gray on Twitter, the Notre Dame basketball coach, tweeted out for anyone who wanted to play Notre Dame basketball, DM him that they'll come to them and make sure it's safe because they can't find an opponent.
that's crazy.
So if I had to bet, I was going to ask you this. To win NCAA college basketball this year, you get the whole conference of the ACC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the SEC, and the Big East even. Give all 5 conferences. I get everyone else and also the possibility the season doesn't finish and there is no champion. So I basically get the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me which odds I like better?
Yeah.
It's 50-50 to me right now, dog.
I can't see them by March being able to do a tournament without being able to do a bubble.
Unless this vaccine is pumped out fast.
Even so, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's 50-50. It's going to be rough if we can even get that far. I think we might have to settle for like just individual conference champions and not have a real tournament, or have a modified tournament where it's not the full field. And it's just, it's. Ugh.
I think that's what they should do. Look, they should just have like tournaments. It should be like AAU stuff, bubble off a campus for a week and just have people there for tournaments. It's going to be interesting. As long as these athletes can stay safe and be able to showcase their skills for the pros, that's great. Of course, I want to be able to watch a full season. I think last year was going to be a really nice end of the season. I'm a big college basketball fan, so we'll probably talk about that stuff more.
I'm a little upset because it was probably Florida State's best team in years. I mean, we had 2 players picked in the lottery in the NBA this year.
Yeah, Patrick Williams, who was picked 4th, was on your bench. Is that right? Didn't he come off the bench? So, all right. Well, it's been a good episode. The NFL is sure. It's getting into that time of the year. Hopefully everything continues. Hopefully we don't get any COVID stuff. Hopefully everyone stays safe. And, fingers crossed, man. But if this happened in a playoff week, then what the fuck would happen? So hopefully we don't have that problem coming up.
It's the reason the NBA was so good at this, because they bubbled it and they made it clean and clear what they were going to do. And it just doesn't seem like the NFL is going to be able to do anything like that. And so, the playoffs could really be a problem.
Yeah. The NBA was proactive, clean, clear, under control.
And the NFL is a much more reactive league.
Did you get that? Do you remember the proactive commercials? Clean, clear, and under control. Proactive.
If I could punch you through the screen, I would.
All right, now. Nah, I can't do it like Stephen A. All right, subscribe to our other stuff. We appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you so much. It's been another episode.
Later.
We're out.
Subscribe to this podcast and other podcasts now from Stage to Stream.
Joint bank account. We should do that.
No.